지금까지 생활을 돌이켜보면 가장 컸던 건 아무래도 작년에 좀 크게 실패했던 게 여기까지 올 수 있었던 큰 계기가 되었던 것 같아요.
And it is on this day that EDG will finally break that world's curse. They now remain the only hope of the LPL.
네, 올해 어쨌든 작년에는 8강에서 그쳤는데 4강에 온 것 자체가 저희가 더 세졌다고 생각을 하고.
This is the year of the LCK and Gen G are a fighting part of it.
Look, show up, back out, pull up, back down, roll up.
For Gen G, you've got guys like BDD who have been so close, who've fallen flat in that final moment.
Show up.
그래서 저는 뭔가 되게 힘든 상황이 닥쳐와도 잘 넘겼기 때문에 항상 실력을 유지할 수 있는 것 같아요.
Take a bow, BDD.
제가 월즈 우승을 해봤을 때 그때의 소감은 되게 얼떨떨하고 내가 우승을 한 게 맞나 싶었었고 되게 기뻤던 것 같아요. 이제 도전하는 입장으로서 다시 한번 그 영광을 좀 찾고 싶다라는 생각이 좀 있는 것 같아요.
They get themselves one step closer to redemption.
我觉得在这7年当中，从刚开始吧，我可能算是一个比较青涩幼稚的一个小孩，然后来到 EDG， 然后到后来就是经过这些沉淀，我觉得，然后也经历的东西越来越多嘛，然后我觉得就慢慢的跟团队一起成长，然后也遇到了很多困难，就变成一个更加成熟，然后更加就感觉就是那种领导者的那种感觉。
바쁜 일은 아니겠지만 쉽게 이길 수 있도록 쉽게 이기고 가겠습니다.
就现在的 EDG， 我觉得谁都不怕嘛。
It all leads to this. Make or break.
Vitality will take them.
A new era is awaiting. Make it yours.
Welcome back to Worlds 2021, taking place in Reykjavik, Iceland. Yesterday, we saw Damwon Kia make their second final in a row. And today, Gen G and EDG fight for the right to challenge them for the world title. EDG made history by advancing to their very first world semi and are now left alone to defend the glory of the LPL against the dominance of the LCK. I am Dash, and I'm happy to be joined by Chronicler to kick off the day. Who better than to talk about the display by two of the best LCK teams in the world just yesterday. It was Damwon Kia who came out on top in a grueling 5-game series in which T1 pushed them further than they had ever been pushed before at Worlds 2021. How you feeling with 24 hours between then and now?
It's a pretty good year to start as an LCK caster, Dash. I'm not gonna lie. It's been an incredible Worlds thus far. And the main thing for me about this series is there was so much hype coming in, there was so much narrative, so much depth, so much history, and it actually delivered, right? Like, we actually got the 5 games. A lot of them were very decisive. We saw so much individual skill expressed in these games, and it was basically the best of 5 that you can only dream of, but then it actually happened, and even the day after, still feel the same way.
It's one that will be remembered for quite a long time. And I gotta echo the sentiment that there was so much hype building up to it. And then at that last moment, there was that feeling of, that pullback. What if it doesn't deliver? But it did more than just that. It was T1 pushing Damwon, not only taking the first game off of Damwon of this Worlds, but taking 2 in that.
And it, for me, both solidified the level that Damwon really has and the clutch that they have even when falling behind, but also the incredible growth that T1 have shown. I think that if you look at this roster midsummer, there was no way that they actually would have been able to push Damwon this far, right? And if you go back to the LCK Summer Finals, even there, they'll win. Damwon got a little bit over-eager in draft, and T1, they still won. But these wins were all very hard-earned, and I'm incredibly excited to see where this roster is going to go. At the same time, though, Doesn't matter if they're down 2-1, if they're down 2 match points, Damwon always finds a way.
You can never count them out. A rematch of that summer final, as you mentioned, and it just, again, exemplifies the growth of that T1 roster with Faker at the helm and the rookies behind him. Cannot wait to see what happens over the next 12 months for that team. But it's Damwon who moves on, and at the center of that roster, you look no further than Showmaker and Canyon.
They're just too good, Dash. They're just too good. And you can go into how well they play off one another, right? The way that Showmaker generates prio that then is used expertly by Canyon. But you have so many games where if one of them doesn't perform, the other one picks up the slack, right? Showmaker has an 11-0-3 game on the LeBlanc, flanked by that Kiana, and it's just so much pressure, so much damage coming through from these players, and more so than any other Damwon players who I think when they have their peak, they can still look incredible, and with the best of the world, it's these two that to me feel just 100% reliable. They're so smart, they're so oppressive, and they're just a beauty to watch.
Showmaker looking to define his own legacy after overcoming the world's greatest League of Legends player of all time. We talk about the two of them who will remain the stars of that Damwon roster, no doubt. But I think from there, we also have to talk about what kind of came from that best of 5. And within it, the meta, the creativity, the adjustments by both teams, and then therefore the spotlight it puts on a very different player. The Jhin pick, of course.
And I don't know if Jhin today is going to be as high prio. I was really happy to see that Jhin was picked in 4 matches, then the Aphelios was left up and he was not touched, banned or picked in the final one. But I think that the main thing we've seen is that you can't give the pick to Ghost, and I do expect that to come into play again. I do think that there is no other team that plays as well around the Jhin as Damwon does, and I don't necessarily expect the pick to be as high prio. Still though, if you look at the impact that it had, 4-0, you know, kept rising and rising until it was the B1 pick just to ensure that that good matchup did come through. But do think that picks like Aphelios still should be higher prio in the series that we're going to see today.
Yeah, 4-0, and that 4-0 went both ways, which I think is important to note. But as you mentioned, totally different players stepping onto the stage today. And in reference to that, let's go ahead and take a look at our bracket. Only 2 more series remain in the totality of the World Championship, one of which comes today. That's our semifinal between EDG and Gen G. EDG, the only team that was pushed beyond even a 3rd game in their quarterfinal, albeit they were the 2nd seed, overcoming the 1 seed in their bout. But give me your thoughts. How do you view this matchup?
It's a really hard one. I think that the T1 Damwon matchup I thought was going to be much more one-sided, so that one really overperformed in my expectations. T1 so much stronger than I was expecting to come out, which is always a really great surprise. For today's series, I have no clue, because both of these two fans, or teams' fans, I think, have become very scared of actually believing in them. They're waiting for the inevitable letdown, and for 2 teams to have that in common also says a lot about, you know, how well these teams deal with pressure. Is it going to be a one-sided series? Is it going to be something very slow, dragged out? Is it going to go to 5 games? I don't know. I'm leaning towards a one-sided blowout for one team or the other, though.
Okay, all right. You have no clue. I have no clue. What better precursor to today's semifinal series than that? Chronicler, thank you so much for helping me preview the day. I'm going to let you go for a bit. We'll catch you later in Countdown. And for now, the stats team would like to test our knowledge over here, myself, Vedius, and Azael, just like they did last week with a little bit of a world's pop quiz. Some hard-hitting questions. None of us...
Please no math questions.
Please no math. I'll take math questions. I enjoyed those ones in rehearsal. But we haven't seen these before. We're going to take a crack at them together. Let's see what we got. First up, in 2017, Gen G won their 2nd world title. Who was the finals MVP? Was it Cuvée? Was it Ambition? Was it Crown? Or was it Ruler?
I think it was Ruler, because wasn't that like this super insane Varus
I feel like it was Ruler.
I think it has to be Ruler. I just have his Varus in my head, and I think it was
was it Cuvée?
Randomly. No, it's between Ambition and Ruler.
It wasn't Ambition.
When did Rise come out?
If it was between Ambition and Ruler, then it's Ruler.
But didn't Rise come out in 2018?
I guess it also...
the song. I was like, the champion video. No, not the Rise. I got really worried about you there for a moment.
The song, the one that was about
10
Ambition.
seconds.
I'm going Ruler.
I'm going Ruler.
I'm going the Ambition. I'm going Ambition.
Okay, what's... Hit us. The answer is Ruler.
Yeah, I just remember his Varus was so insane in that series. There was that one famous play over by Dragon and Blue Buff where he like flashed forward and just,
Yeah.
I have that burned into my brain.
There it is. Boom.
He's good.
1 point to each myself and Azael. Betty is bringing up the rear. Next.
It's okay, you're trying your best.
Who has the most international games for
Hang in there.
EDG all time? Only MSI Worlds games, so we're not going to include like Rift Rivals, things like that. Is it Clear Love? Is it Mako? Is it Scout? Is it iBoy? I'm going with Mako.
It has to be Mako.
Well, no,
did Clear Love join
actually,
before
can I get a clarification from producers? Is this international games on EDG or just international games total that these players played over their career? While on EDG, then I'm going for Mako. Then I'm going for Mako.
Or Clear Love. I don't know if Clear Love joined before Mako, because Clear Love was like the centerpiece for so long.
Yeah.
I'm just saying Clear Love just for difference.
All right,
but, I mean, Mako's
Azael's going to go Clear Love. We're both going Mako. And the answer is Mako. Well done, Betty.
I thought they were going to try to trick us, because Mako's still with the team.
Well, that's what I thought in question one. I thought it was, you know what I mean?
Okay, all right. Next up, after Gore Drinker, what is the second most bought mythic item at Worlds 2021? Groups and knockouts. So we're ignoring play-ins then. It's groups, knockouts. Is it Everfrost, Gale Force, Locket, or Shield Bow? I'm tempted to say Shield Bow because of grades.
Yeah, it's also built top. I mean, I'm trying to think.
That's a good one.
Like Everfrost is built by a lot of mages. It's also built by Gragas top.
Well, and if you have, so like MFs are building Gale Force, the occasional Lucians are
but
building
does every
Gale
support
Force.
build Locket?
No.
And
Locket
Aphelios
hasn't
are building
been
Gale
as
Force.
common.
Yeah, I think you're
So
right.
most of the ADCs are building Gale Force, right? You gotta field shield bows.
I'm actually gonna go Everfrost, because I do think that Kraken and Gale Force are kind of like mixed in. So like I do think the ADC itemization kind of like attacks each other a bit there.
Everfrost is
I think you guys are right. I'll go shield bow for difference here. I'm gonna go
Okay.
shield bow. What do we got?
Everfrost.
I'm looking at the Everfrost is correct.
Let's go, Betty.
Well done, Jen.
We're on the come up.
Wait,
So
it's
actually,
a draw
it's
right
a draw
now.
right now. Twos
Okay.
across the board. Twos across the board here. Next question is, EDG has the fastest average game time at Worlds 2021 in the groups and knockout stage. What is it? Oh, this is not fair.
Wait, I know
what
this.
it is.
I know what it is too.
We did know because all right, so this is unfair because this is on a graphic that we're going to show you all later in the show.
Oh, I haven't seen this graphic. I'm screwed. I'm like, wait, what are you guys talking about?
What do you believe it is, Azael? What do you believe it is?
Yeah, first.
I think B, because C and D look too slow for fast this time, and A looks too fast. I don't think it's sub 30.
All right,
I'm gonna
Betty,
guess B.
shall we?
I believe it is B.
I believe it's B as
It
well.
is B.
Exactly.
Oh,
so
let's
we're going
go.
with B at 30.
Azael.
We're all still tied up. 3 across the board. Finally, the tiebreaker question here. The last time LPL and LCK met at Worlds prior to the finals, one of today's players was a part of that series. Who was it? Was it Ruler,
LPL.
Clid, Mako, Viper? So LPL versus LCK prior to finals.
Last time they played prior to finals.
LPL versus LCK, the last LPL
So
LCK.
it would have been last year.
Does that mean it's
been-
semifinals or just any time they played?
Well,
I'm
so
kind of confused.
the last time, right? So they obviously have not played here at this Worlds prior, right? So it's any BO5 in the knockout stage. So last year, who was the
last
LPL?
pre-finals?
That's what I'm saying.
So it could
last
be a
year
quarter or a
semi.
semi. I
So
see.
yeah. So
I
what was
see.
the last matchup between LPL and LCK, and then who was a player in that matchup? Oh my God! I don't know.
Well,
I have
last
no
year there
idea.
wasn't any LPL or LCK. I mean, it almost
Could've
certainly
been a
has to
couple
be
years
cleared, right?
It's
It almost-
not, it's not Viper. It could be Mako, just because again.
When was Ruler
Well,
last
the
time?
problem is EDG, they played against Fnatic
They
in
always lose in quarters.
2019.
And they got knocked out. So I like the Clid answer.
And then Ruler played against Gen G, so I feel like it has to be cleared because I'm going Clid.
I like Clid, but then we're all even again. So we're just
I'll go
committing. We're
Clid.
committing
I'll
to
go
going
Clid.
down together. Clid! Damn.
It was Viper and
Viper!
Griffin.
Oh, it was Griffin versus Invictus Gaming!
That was in 2019. Okay,
That
so
was
wow, it's been a while since that's happened. The final scores are 3s across the board. At least that means we're in sync today.
For a
Jen.
second, I was thinking about Griffin, but then I kind of got swayed. To be honest, I wasn't confident enough. I should have gone with
The
it.
time pressure
Damn,
got
damn,
to
damn.
us, you know?
Yeah.
That's
That
let's
last one was
blame it-
actually hard.
let's blame
That
it
was
on
a good
That
one.
was a tough
Good job,
one. That
Stas.
was a good one though
Great
to end
job.
on right there. I regret the Everfrost one. I definitely should have just hopped on that train.
Yeah, it just gave it away because there's
Shield Bow and Gale Force
are built a lot. Yeah.
split. Alrighty. Well, that's enough out of us for our pop quiz. We did a lot better though than last week.
We did much
I will
better.
Well, I
say
wasn't
that.
here last time.
All right, be sure to check out the Spotify exclusive podcast, Riff Reaction, hosted by Travis Gafford and Emily Rand. There's more to say, I swear. They'll cover trending news in the world of LoL esports, and fans have the chance to join the conversation with interactive polls and Q&A. Today, we're wondering, does EDG have a chance against the remaining Korean teams? Azael's already answered it. You go do the same.
Solved.
Head to Riff Reaction on Spotify and select the latest episode to submit your answer. And be sure to tune in for the next episode this Tuesday on Spotify. Today, the last hope of the LPL look to continue their historic run at Worlds 2021 as EDG face off against Gen G in our second semifinal. Join us for a preview right after this.
Should have said Viper.
Yeah.
Yo, you did, okay?
Disappear, I'm your eraser. Ain't the cut just like a razor. Murked up in this world, my blazer. I got all the boys on me. I got all the lines on ring. Knocking dead, turning heads. I got all the eyes on me. Pretty face, 걸어 들어와. 유행 선두자. 원하지만 못하잖아. 애가 타잖아. You like whoa, 달리 you도 gold. 난 알지, I know. 준비해, cause I like the ball. 멈추지 않아. 나는 내 그게 like a bag. 그거 말고 bye. 믿어봐, 그만큼 크게. 고 high 100% 덤비지 못해 죽여주잖아 나는 boss 간지 with the sauce 원하면 줄게 I'm doing damage when just how I planned it I do what I want when I say 모두 날 따라해 난 끝내주잖아 To live on the edge of insane Coming at you loud real, real wild Here to light it up set the world on fire Gonna break rules and hearts in twos Cause that's what the baddest do I never going back, nah, nah, that Diamonds on drip cause I came to make a splash Gonna break rules and hearts in twos Cause that's what the baddest do It's crazy Sorry for the bad news, sorry I'm so bad Only took a minute for me to get what you had Sorry for the bad news, no it makes you sad Live for a minute, baby, you should pack your bags Without a look should be breaking the law If I don't got it, I take what I want My circle small like a round of applause You know that I love the sound of applause You know I mean everything that I say When you see me coming, get out of the way I can just lay, back and I'm better and ready to stay I'm doing damage when just how I planned it I do what I want when I say 모두 날 따라해 난 끝내주잖아 To live on the edge of insane It's crazy Sorry not sorry for being the best 언제든지 내가 좀 mad Look at the gold all on my chest Look at the gold call it a flex KDA Should we show them how we do it every day?
Welcome back to Worlds 2021. The journey to the semifinals has been long and tough for EDG. But after a grueling best-of-5 versus LPL rivals RNG, they finally made it to the top 4. And Vedius, I think that's where we have to start. It's a historic achievement already for this organization to have made it this far here at Worlds.
It certainly is, and it's long overdue, one could say, because EDG have been considered a favorite coming to Worlds for multiple years. Huge expectations have been put onto the shoulders of EDG, yet when it comes to the World Championship, this organization has consistently fallen short. The fact that we are at 2021, and this is the first time that they have ever made the semifinals, to many was shocking, especially when you look back. They won an MSI back in 2015. It was SKT that they had to beat back then in order to secure it, and it was an iconic series as well, the classic Morgana answer into the LeBlanc. EDG have a very long history, but now they are the sole representation of the LPL. And in the past, yes, a lot of weight has been sitting on their shoulders, but even more so now as they look down the barrel of the LCK Titans.
Yeah, Chronicler, as we welcome you back, I think it is crucial for us to remember the success that this team has had on numerous stages. Of course, their 6th world appearance, the fact that they have won titles domestically and even had international success. They've tasted it on that MSI stage, but this Worlds title and even the semifinal success that they've already just found has eluded them up to this point. And to some degree, I have to imagine there's pressure that weighs on them at this moment.
Yeah, you could take 2 lines of argumentation, right? You can say that now that they've broken that barrier, there's nothing from holding them back, because I think EDG, in many ways, kind of succumbed to the pressure that comes as it builds up over years and years, right? Like, the further and further you fall down that hole of, we didn't make it again, it kind of stacks up. And now that you finally made it through, there should theoretically be nothing to hold you back. And I also think that as regards who their opponents are, they are facing very similar issues.
They definitely are. But to your point about which way EDG is going to take it, you know what? Let's go ahead and look at the org themselves and at least what they're putting out to the public, because they're finding a way to have some fun with it, I think, Betty is.
Yeah, I love that they've been tweeting all kinds of stuff like this. I would highly recommend you go check out their Twitter, because they're embracing the memes, you know what I mean? They recognize that across from them in the semifinals is a World Championship holder, World Championship holder, World Championship holder, and EDG, who's just happy to be here, you know, after securing their first semifinal. So it's great to see EDG embracing their position, but they definitely shouldn't be underestimated, because coming into the tournament, they were considered a top 3 team and a favorite to make it to the final, and now they're in a great position to do just that.
Right, and so while EDG is, quote-unquote, just happy to be here, I return to the point that you were just making, Chronicler, around their opponent, who, yes, while having a world title, actually 2 in their organization's history from 2014 and 2017 under the banners of Samsung White and Samsung Galaxy, this is a team that has had a tumultuous history, to say the least, you know, being the only team to not make it out of a groups from the LCK in the past. And so for them, still feels like there's a bit of a redemption arc at play here.
I agree. I feel like Gen G very much are kind of trying to chase their own shadow, right? This is something that we've also seen from teams like T1, where once you've become the world champion, especially after you've done it twice, being the only org outside of T1 to ever do so, anything less becomes kind of a disappointment. And this specific Gen G roster has, over like the last year and a half, 2 years, followed the exact same trajectory multiple times, do really well, people get excited, the pressure gets to them, and they collapse. And coming into a semi, you can't really have that happen.
Exactly, and naturally you're going to look at a player like Ruler, one of the remaining members from that championship squad, right? And a world champion and consistent performer in every, regard or respect of the word. But Vedius, the story of this team at this tournament has been BDD and what he can get done in the mid lane.
It certainly has. He's had a fantastic performance overall throughout the tournament, and I think that when the expectations are at their lowest for Gen G is when you often see them perform the best. And BDD right now is at the forefront alongside his jungler, Clid.
We'll have more time to jump into the matchup itself, but for more on Gen G's dynamic mid-jungle duo, here's Azael for a new edition of State Farm Neighborhood Tactics.
Thank you very much. I just want to talk a little bit about not only BDD and how incredible he is as an individual, but how Gen G are able to use his leads in mid to effectively snowball other parts of the map. In particular in this game, it's about snowballing top here. It was game 2 against Cloud9 from the quarterfinals. So it is Malphite versus Graves top here. Obviously, the Graves is going to have the advantage here in the early lane. Rascal getting level 2 early, pushing Fudge back, getting dominance there. And now what we're going to see is Lee Sin was clearing towards top. He's going to come in here, and he's actually going to place a ward. So you can see on the minimap, he drops a ward right there. That is going to become important later. You can also see Blabber here, obviously spotted on that ward. So full information on everything that is going on. Meanwhile, BDD, he had actually pushed in that wave very early. This wave is now pushing back towards him. You can see those extra minions there that were there from perks that just got cleared out. Clid comes down towards mid lane. The scatter is landed here by BDD. They're going to connect with the Sonic Wave, and they're going to get this kill. Now, what this gets Gen G, because they're able to push in this wave, is it actually gets them the teleport here from perks. Now, this is where that previous ward becomes really important. with the TP used now from Gen G, or rather from Perkz, Gen G does have TP advantage. So again, TPing in on this ward that was earlier placed here by the Lee Sin. We're going to see BDD come in, wrap around here onto Rascal, who has been pushing in this wave, and they're going to go for a kill here on Fudge. Clid had gone up towards Krugs. He's healing off that, so he would have been here if he was needed. But in fact, he is not. They're able to get an easy kill here. Already, the lead has expanded. They're moving around the map. Now, what this would normally cost you on this TP towards top is the mid lane wave. But Clid, again, he's going to cover. He moves down. He picks up all this farm, staying out on the map, is able to get that experience, get that gold. So Gen G really haven't lost anything whatsoever off the play. Now, Clid has actually based. He's going to come out from base, and he's just going to hang around here because he knows that Blabber could actually be in the area. We can see Blabber's right over here. So Clid wants to cover the push from BDD, and because they already have the experience advantage up on the top side, they're going to be pushing in top side, and they're going to prepare to try to repeat this dive. See if they can pull it off on Fudge once again. In this case, Fudge has actually anticipated it, right? He sees BDD moving. He already has a ward there in the river, and now he's going to place one here in the Tri-Brush as well. So he has a pink ward here. He has the ward there. But what is Fudge to do? We have BDD moving in. We can see that Perkz is actually trapped under his tower because Perkz, on the minimap, those minions just got pushed in. So if he moves, he's going to lose all that. And if he doesn't have any TP to try to answer. So all Fudge can do from this location is actually back off. But that alone is getting them a massive advantage. They threaten the dive. Fudge doesn't know where BDD is because they have no vision in the river. So they zone him off. BDD gets back to mid, again, right in time to catch the wave. So they haven't lost any minions at all mid lane while doing all of this. Fudge is getting completely zoned off on that top side, is down 2 levels. Cloud9 look to make a play on the bot side, aren't able to get anything done there. And then again, utilizing the advantage through mid, BDD had flash from the previous play, flashes in ulti to set up the scatter. The Sonic wave here is true from Clid. Another kill in mid lane. They absolutely run over this game. You can see the plates have already been knocked down. 3 plates in total. A 2-level advantage there nearly for Rascal on the top side. This became unplayable for Fudge. And it was a situation where they actually had a really good comp here. If they could have scaled, if they could have stayed with parity here against Gen G. But you can see the lead in the top lane already enormous. 1,300 gold in the advantage, nearly 2 levels in the advantage. Such an impressive snowball of this game. You could see the pre-planning with the early ward. You could see the mid lane being covered anytime waves were being pushed in there. The timings, the coordination, so impressive. And I've got to say, BDD and Clid have been killing it.
Incredible breakdown and examples of how this duo can get so much work done, both together on the Rift and separately in sync. Even when one is making a decision, they might not be on the same screen at the same time. They are moving together with information provided by the other. And so again, we'll put a big highlight on BDD as a top performer and a playmaker for this squad. But Vedius, there's 2 mid laners in this matchup.
Yes, there are.
And we have been blessed with some incredible mid laners in these semifinals.
There's 2 in most, I will say.
Exactly, yeah, 2 in most, right? But, well, I would say 2. We had 2 yesterday, which were both, you know, top of the world. But here again, we have Scout, no slouch of his own, who's going to be taking on BDD.
And I will say that their playstyles are somewhat different. Typically, BDD works a lot more with his jungler. You see a lot more investment. And we saw Azale highlight what that looks like and how they do actually enable and play through BDD and how they use that around the map. Scout is a little bit more self-sufficient. He plays more for himself and he plays a little bit more to gain advantages by himself, where he then scales and has a greater impact later on into the game. But you know he can have that impact, especially if he does get resources in the early game as well, as demonstrated when he played up against FPX in the final of the LPL, allowing EDG to secure that first seed coming out from LPL.
While we talk about how crucial it is that BDD performs today, I think we flip over to the other side and we look at EDG, and it is arguable that this is a more versatile team, perhaps able to play through a few different lanes, having a few more avenues to victory.
Absolutely. I do feel that they're a more complete team, but that doesn't mean that Scout's job is any less important, because BDD feels like the big win condition for Gen G. He has been playing incredibly well. He has had amazingly high highs in the LCK, but it's rare that he's able to actually have them consistently. And this has been 9 straight games of him dominating. Win or lose, he has been crushing his opponents. So at the very least, you're looking for Scout to neutralize, because he has been less of a damage dealer for the team. You know, he's dealing about 20% of the damage for his team, where Flandre is dealing 30. That is inverted for Gen G. They are more reliant on BDD, who is up around 30% of the team's damage. So if Scout can neutralize, I do feel like it looks really good for EDG.
A very interesting inversion. Now it's time to look at that graphic that spoiled the game time for us.
I should have paid attention to this.
I know you should have paid attention in rehearsal. But Medius, as we were talking about, I think, you know, if you looked and isolated domestically, you might have one opinion about the way that both of these teams play. But actually, EDG throughout this tournament, interestingly enough, has been the faster-paced team. In fact, the fastest remaining team here at Worlds.
Yeah, and it's crazy kind of how it ties as well back into Azael's point, which is that while a lot of their damage does come through top, that doesn't mean that they're throwing a bunch of resources in the early game up towards Flandre. They are actually quite slow in the 0 to 10 minute mark. They'll throw a gank hero there. They'll be a little bit proactive, but it's really that 10-minute mark, their transition from the early to mid, where you really see this team start to explode and where they net their laning advantages into then a dominant and powerful mid game. So I think it's kind of opposite of what we typically see from Gen G, where often they can be super proactive in the early game, and then sometimes their mid game they do slow down just a tad.
We've definitely had that criticism of them building massive gold leads and then just relying on Drakes to come through in order to close out the game. Now, after years of struggle, Ruler and Gen G have made it back to the World semi-final. There they meet a stampeding EDG led by an explosive up-and-coming Korean AD carry. Our featured matchup presented by Mercedes-Benz. It's Ruler versus Viper.
In a tournament where the spotlight is on T1 and Damwon, another former world champion has emerged from the shadows. The bot laner who took down Faker himself in the 2017 finals has returned and is joined by one of the best mid laners at the tournament in BDD.
The stolen ignite. He's gonna kill everybody if he's given time. Another stolen flash. He's popping off, but will it be enough? He goes back. They are on the edge of madness.
Gen G might be underdogs to win the title, but a spot in the finals would be a sweet redemption.
Vulcan locked up. Vulcan knocked down 3 and 4 with the bullets as Ruler finds 2.
The last bastion of hope for the LPL lies with EDG in this series. They had to beat their brothers in arms to get here, but they fought for their place in the semi-finals.
TP's coming in. There's the first knockup. Gala trying to kite. He's rooted, and he's going to drop. Bullet time hits 2 waves.
Viper has shown his aggression throughout the tournament, and versus a legend like Ruler, we're set for an epic fight in the bot lane.
Zodius, Viper alone, but he has Mako, and that's a shutdown over to the Xin Zhao. And Viper, he's got the red gun, he's got the lifesteal, and he's got a Lulu.
The LCK versus the LPL, a rivalry as old as the league itself, will determine who will take a spot in the finals.
Our featured matchup for the day presented by Mercedes-Benz. It's Ruler versus Viper, both Korean AD carries, however, one representing the Chinese region. Chronicler as the LCK representative. Give me your thoughts. How is this matchup going to break down?
I think if you'd asked me a month ago, I would have been very in favor of Viper. I think he's had an incredible year. I'm really happy to see the player, after having such a rough 2020 in the LCK, really sees talents be utilized and him being able to perform as well as he has been. But Ruler, ever since we got to Worlds, has looked way better. So I actually think in terms of who has the edge here, slight edge towards Viper, but it should be a fireworks in the bot lane tonight.
Small edge to Viper, but Ruler's showing us why it is that he holds one of those world titles. Now it's time for predictions, so make sure you visit @MastercardNexus on Twitter to share your pick for the winners of the World Finals next weekend. For now, though, 71% of you have already voted for EDG to win today's semifinal, and now I'm going to run down the line of my analysts here.
We're both EDG.
Okay, well, there it is. They're both EDG. How many games?
3-0.
3-1. 3-1, and then Chronicler, bring us home.
3-0 Gen G. I believe. You got it, BDD. Come on. Don't let me down.
He's putting faith in the mid laner over there. And Ruler,
imagine thinking an LCK team would win.
We will see. We're moments away. The winner of today's series will earn a shot at the title next Saturday versus Damwon Kia as Gen G and EDG face off. Here's Freak, Lyric, and Kobe for